The scent of cedarwood and wild jasmine filled the grand hall of the Silver Moon Pack's ceremonial grounds, but to Emma Hartley, it smelled like rejection. She stood at the edge of the gathering, her fingers twisting the fabric of her simple cream dress, watching as pairs formed around her like clockwork. Alphas approached Omegas with confident strides. Betas found their matches with easy smiles, and she remained invisible. Again, 5 years, 5 ceremonies, 5 times she'd worn hope-like armor, only to have it stripped away before midnight struck. Emma's wolf whimpered inside her, a soft, wounded sound that made her chest ache. She pressed her palm against her sternum, willing the creature to settle. There was no point in getting emotional now. She'd learned that lesson the hard way during her second ceremony, when she'd actually allowed herself to believe that Marcus Green would approach her. He'd walked right past her to claim a beta from the neighboring pack instead. "Emma, honey, you should mingle more." Her mother's voice came from behind, gentle but laced with that familiar disappointment Emma had grown to recognize. "You can't find a mate standing in the shadows." She turned to face Catherine Hartley, a woman who'd been blessed with a strong alpha mate and 3 children who'd all found their matches by their first ceremony. Emma was the anomaly, the daughter who didn't quite fit the mold. "I'm not hiding, Mom, I'm just observing." Catherine's eyes softened, and for a moment Emma saw genuine pain there. "Sweetheart, I know these ceremonies have been difficult, but you have to keep trying. You're 23 now. The pack expects me to know my place," Emma interrupted, her voice quieter than she intended. "And apparently, my place is nowhere." Before her mother could respond, a ripple of energy swept through the hall. Emma felt it in her bones, a primal recognition that made her wolf suddenly alert. The crowd parted near the main entrance, and she heard the whispers start like wildfire. "Is that really him? I heard he's been traveling for 3 years. Didn't think he'd ever come back." Emma couldn't see through the sea of bodies, but she felt the shift in atmosphere. Someone important had arrived, someone powerful. The air itself seemed to thicken with alpha energy, so potent it made her knees weak. "Ethan Blackwood," her mother whispered, and Emma heard the surprise in her tone. "I thought he'd renounced the pack." Ethan Blackwood. The name triggered memories Emma had tried to bury. She'd been 18 at her first ceremony, terrified and hopeful in equal measure. Ethan had been 24 then, already a legend in the pack, strong, decisive, and utterly uninterested in the mating traditions. He'd stood at the back of the hall that night, his dark eyes scanning the crowd with barely concealed disdain, and then he'd left before the ceremony even concluded. Emma had watched him go, something in her chest pulling tight, but she'd dismissed it as foolish attraction. Alphas like Ethan Blackwood didn't notice Omegas like her. Now, 5 years later, the crowd finally parted enough for her to catch a glimpse of him, and her breath caught in her throat. He'd changed. The boy who'd left had returned as a man carved from stone and shadow. Taller, broader, with dark hair that fell just past his collar and eyes that seemed to see straight through the pretense of the ceremony. He wore all black, simple clothes that somehow made him look more dangerous than anyone else in their formal attire, and he was looking directly at her. Emma's heart slammed against her ribs. No, that wasn't possible. She glanced behind her, certain he was staring at someone else, but there was only the wall and her mother, who'd already moved away to greet another pack member. When she looked back, Ethan was still watching her, his expression unreadable but intense enough to make her skin flush with heat. Her wolf surged forward, pressing against her consciousness with an urgency that bordered on desperate. "Mate," the creature whispered. "Mate, mate, mate." Emma shook her head, trying to clear the instinct away. This was insane. Ethan Blackwood was not her mate. Her wolf was just confused, responding to powerful alpha energy after years of rejection. That's all this was. She forced herself to look away, turning toward the refreshment table as if she'd simply been scanning the room. Her hands trembled as she reached for a glass of punch, and she focused on steadying her breathing. Just ignore it. The feeling would pass. It always did. "You shouldn't be here." The voice came from directly behind her, low and rough like gravel. Emma spun around and nearly dropped her glass. Ethan stood less than 2 feet away, close enough that she could see the silver flecks in his dark eyes, close enough to catch his scent, pine and rain, and something wild that made her wolf howl with recognition. What?" Emma's voice came out as barely a whisper. "This ceremony," Ethan said, his gaze never leaving hers. "It's a waste of your time. You don't belong here." The words hit her like a physical blow. Of course, even Ethan Blackwood, who'd been gone for 3 years, could see what everyone else did. She was unwanted, unmatchable, a burden on the pack's perfect traditions. Emma straightened her spine, calling on every ounce of dignity she had left. "Thank you for your observation. If you'll excuse me." She tried to move past him, but Ethan's hand shot out, catching her wrist. The contact sent electricity racing up her arm, so intense she gasped. His eyes widened slightly, and she knew he felt it too. "That's not what I meant," he said, his voice rougher now. "Emma, how do you know my name?" The question came out sharper than she intended, defensive and raw. "Everyone knows your name," a new voice interjected, smooth and cold. "The Omega who can't find a mate. Quite the reputation you've built." Emma turned to find another alpha approaching, this one tall and polished in an expensive gray suit. Tyler Morrison. He'd rejected her at her third ceremony, choosing a beautiful beta named Sarah instead. She'd heard they'd had a son last spring. "Tyler," Ethan's tone dropped to something dangerous. "Walk away." "Still playing the protective hero, Blackwood?" Tyler smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You've been gone for 3 years. Things have changed. You don't get to give orders anymore." The tension between the two alphas was palpable, drawing attention from nearby pack members. Emma felt the weight of their stares, the whispers starting again. This was exactly what she didn't need. 2 powerful alphas making a scene with her caught in the middle. "I'm leaving," she announced, pulling her wrist free from Ethan's loosened grip. "Both of you can continue your territorial display without me." She walked away before either could respond, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. Behind her, she heard Tyler say something low and mocking, heard Ethan's growled response, but she kept moving. Through the crowd, past her mother's concerned look, straight out the main doors into the cool September night. The Virginia air was crisp, carrying the scent of the nearby Blue Ridge Mountains. Emma walked quickly across the grounds, heading for the path that led to the residential area of the pack territory. She needed to get home, to lock herself in her room and pretend this night had never happened. "Emma, wait!" She didn't stop, couldn't stop. If she stopped, she might break down completely, and she'd promised herself after the third ceremony that she wouldn't cry over pack events anymore. Footsteps pounded behind her, faster than hers. A hand caught her shoulder, gentle but firm, and she whirled around to find Ethan standing there, slightly breathless. "Please," he said, "just give me 5 minutes." "Why?" Emma demanded, and she heard the crack in her own voice. "So you can explain what you meant back there? So you can tell me that I don't belong at ceremonies because I'm defective somehow? I already know, Ethan. Trust me. 5 years of rejection has made it very clear. You're not defective." His words were fierce, almost angry. "That's the opposite of what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" Ethan ran a hand through his dark hair, a gesture of frustration that made him look suddenly younger. "You don't belong at those ceremonies because the mating system is broken. It's archaic and political, and it has nothing to do with actual compatibility or..." He paused, his jaw tightening. "Or genuine bonds." Emma stared at him, trying to process his words. "That's easy for you to say. You're an alpha. You could have any Omega you wanted." "That's exactly the problem," Ethan said quietly. "The whole system is based on hierarchy and power, not on actual connection. I left because I couldn't stand watching it anymore. Watching people forced into matches that made sense on paper but destroyed them in reality. So you're a rebel philosopher now." Despite everything, Emma felt a bitter laugh escape. "That's wonderful for you, Ethan. But some of us don't have the luxury of rejecting the system. Some of us are just rejected by it." "Emma, no." She held up her hand. "I appreciate whatever this is. Pity, guilt, social justice warrior moment. But I don't need it. I've made my peace with being alone." The lie tasted bitter on her tongue, but she held his gaze steadily. She'd gotten good at pretending over the years. Ethan studied her for a long moment, and something in his expression shifted. The intensity dimmed, replaced by something that looked almost like pain. "What if I told you that you're not meant to be alone? I'd say you're 5 years too late with the inspirational speeches. What if I told you that I felt it the moment I walked into that hall tonight? That every instinct I have is screaming that you're..." "Don't." Emma's voice came out sharp, panicked. "Don't say it. Don't you dare say it unless you're absolutely certain, because I can't survive another disappointment." The vulnerability in her own words horrified her. She'd revealed too much, let him see the wounds she usually kept carefully hidden. But Ethan didn't look triumphant or pitying. He looked wrecked. "I left 3 years ago because I could feel it even then," he said softly. "You were 18, too young, and I was already questioning everything about our pack structure. I thought distance would make it fade. I thought if I traveled far enough, fought in enough battles, helped enough other packs, I could forget the pull I felt toward an Omega I'd never even spoken to." Emma's breath caught. Ethan, it didn't work, he continued, taking a step closer. And when I walked in tonight and saw you standing there, looking like you were ready to shatter, I knew I'd made a mistake leaving. I knew that whatever this is between us, it's not going away. Her wolf was going absolutely wild, throwing herself against Emma's consciousness, begging to be acknowledged. But Emma had learned caution the hard way. You don't know me, she whispered. How can you be so sure? I'm not, Ethan admitted, but I'd like the chance to find out. No ceremonies, no pack politics. Just you and me figuring out if this feeling means what I think it does. For a moment, Emma let herself imagine it. Let herself believe that maybe, after 5 years of rejection, something good could actually happen. But then reality crashed back in. Tyler seemed pretty interested in making sure that doesn't happen, she pointed out. Ethan's expression darkened. Tyler Morrison is a politician playing alpha games. He saw me show interest in you and decided you might be worth acquiring after all. That's how he thinks. Everything is a competition, a power play. And you're different? I'm not playing games, Emma. I'm dead serious. The conviction in his voice made her want to believe him, made her want to take the risk, even though every self-protective instinct she'd developed over the past 5 years screamed at her to walk away. Before she could respond, a howl split the night air, long, challenging, and unmistakably alpha. Both Emma and Ethan turned toward the ceremonial hall where the sound had originated. What was that? Emma asked, though part of her already knew. Ethan's jaw clenched. That was Tyler. He just issued a formal challenge. For what? He turned to look at her, and in his eyes she saw resignation mixed with determination. For the right to court you. It's an old law, rarely invoked anymore. But if an alpha believes another alpha is pursuing his chosen mate, he can challenge for priority. Emma's stomach dropped. I'm not anyone's chosen mate. I've been rejected by everyone for 5 years. Not anymore, Ethan said grimly. Not after tonight. Tyler saw how I reacted to you and now he wants what I want. That's how his mind works. This is insane, Emma breathed. This can't be happening. Another howl joined the first, this one deeper, more primal. Emma recognized it instinctively as Ethan's wolf, answering the challenge even though the man hadn't shifted. I have to go back, Ethan said, but he didn't move. But Emma, I need you to understand something. Whatever happens in there, whatever the pack says or does, you have a choice. You always have a choice. Don't let them tell you otherwise. If this part touched your heart, tell me from which place in the world you're listening to this story. I'd love to know who's out there following Emma's journey. Emma watched Ethan disappear back toward the ceremonial hall, his stride purposeful and tense. She should have followed him, should have marched back in there and told both alphas that she wasn't some prize to be won in a territorial dispute. But her legs wouldn't move. 5 years of rejection had taught her to stay invisible, to avoid drawing attention, and now she was at the center of a challenge that would have the entire pack talking for months. Her phone buzzed in her clutch. A text from her younger sister, Riley. OMG, what is happening? 2 alphas are about to fight over you? Emma closed her eyes. Of course the news was already spreading. In a pack of 300 wolves, gossip traveled faster than wildfire. She needed to think. Needed to understand what was actually happening before she made any decisions. Instead of heading home, Emma turned toward the east side of the territory where the pack's archives were housed in a small building that had once been a hunting lodge. If Tyler had invoked an old law, she wanted to know exactly what it entailed. The archives were usually locked after sunset, but Emma had been volunteering there for 2 years, helping to digitize old pack records. She had her own key. The building was dark when she arrived and she flipped on only the small desk lamp, not wanting to draw attention. The legal texts were kept in a climate-controlled room in the back. Emma pulled out the heavy leather-bound volume titled Pack Law and Ceremonial Traditions 1847 Present and began searching through the index. Her hands trembled as she flipped pages, and she forced herself to breathe slowly. There, Chapter 7, Section 3, Resolution of Competing Courtship Claims. Emma read the passage twice, her heart sinking with each word. The law was indeed old, dating back to the mid-1800s when pack territories were constantly being challenged, and alphas needed clear protocols for everything, including romantic pursuits. If 2 alphas both declared interest in the same omega and couldn't reach a peaceful resolution, they could invoke formal challenge rights. The challenge itself wasn't a fight to the death. The pack had evolved past that brutality, but it was still physical. A sanctioned match in the pack's arena, overseen by the Alpha Prime and the Council of Elders. The winner earned the right to court the Omega in question for a period of 3 months, during which no other Alpha could interfere. But here was the part that made Emma's stomach turn. The Omega had to be present for the challenge, had to witness it, and at the end she had to formally accept the victor's courtship claim, even if only temporarily. She wasn't property, but the old law certainly treated her like one. "I thought I might find you here." Emma jumped, nearly dropping the book. She spun to find her father, James Hartley, standing in the doorway. He was a beta, calm and steady where her mother was anxious and status-conscious. Emma had always been closer to him. "Dad, It's okay, sweetheart." He walked over, his expression concerned but not judgmental. "I saw you leave. Figured you'd want answers before facing the circus back there." "It's already a circus?" James sighed, pulling up a chair beside her. "The Alpha Prime has scheduled the challenge for tomorrow night. Ethan and Tyler are both being kept in separate preparation areas until then. The whole pack is talking about nothing else." "This is a nightmare," Emma whispered. "Dad, I don't want this. I don't want either of them fighting over me like I'm some kind of trophy." "I know." Her father's voice was gentle. "But the challenge has been formally issued and accepted. According to pack law, it has to proceed unless both Alphas withdraw, which doesn't seem likely." Emma thought about Tyler's cold smile, the way he'd looked at her like she was suddenly valuable now that someone else wanted her. Then she thought about Ethan's intensity, the genuine pain in his eyes when he'd talked about leaving 3 years ago. "What do you know about Ethan Blackwood?" she asked quietly. James leaned back in his chair, considering. He was always different from the other Alphas. Questioned things, challenged traditions. His father was Alpha Prime before Marcus Steele took over, did you know that? Emma shook her head. She'd been only 13 when the leadership transition happened, too young to pay attention to pack politics. Ethan's father, David Blackwood, was a good leader, but very traditional. When he died suddenly, heart attack during a territorial negotiation, Ethan was only 21, too young to take over as Alpha Prime, according to the elders. They installed Marcus Steele instead. And Ethan, I think he felt betrayed, not just by being passed over, but by the whole system that valued age and political connections over actual capability. So he left. Eventually, yes. But first he tried to change things from within. Proposed reforms to the mating ceremonies, suggested updating some of the more archaic laws. The elders shut him down every time. After about a year of fighting losing battles, he asked for leave to travel. Said he needed to see how other packs operated, learn different perspectives. Emma absorbed this information, trying to reconcile it with the man who'd looked at her tonight like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking for years. "And Tyler?" she asked, though she was less curious about him. James's expression tightened. "Tyler Morrison is ambitious. His family has always been influential. Money, connections, political power. He's been angling for a council position since he was 25. Smart, strategic, but..." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Everything Tyler does is calculated, including his choice of mate. Sarah came from a prominent beta family with ties to 3 neighboring packs. You think he's only interested in me now because Ethan is? I think Tyler sees an opportunity," her father said diplomatically. "If he wins the challenge against someone like Ethan Blackwood, especially after Ethan's been gone for 3 years, it makes Tyler look strong, reinforces his position as a dominant alpha. So I'm just a pawn in some political game." "Not to Ethan," James said quietly. "I was watching him tonight, Emma. The way he looked at you, that wasn't political. That was recognition." Emma's wolf stirred at her father's words, hopeful and yearning. She pushed the feeling down, refusing to let herself hope too much. "But what if I don't want either of them?" she asked. "What if I just want to be left alone?" "Then you tell them that," her father said firmly. "After the challenge, when the victor tries to claim courtship rights, you can refuse. It will cause problems, probably result in a council hearing, but you have that right. The law says you must be present and hear the claim, but it doesn't say you have to accept it." A small spark of relief flickered in Emma's chest. She wasn't completely powerless after all. "The pack won't like it," she said. "The pack needs to evolve," James replied, and she heard an edge of frustration in his voice. "Your mother and I have been arguing about this for years. She thinks you need to be more aggressive about finding a mate, more willing to compromise. I think the whole system needs to be rebuilt from scratch." Emma looked at her father with new appreciation. "You sound like Ethan." "Maybe Ethan had the right ideas all along," James said. "Maybe we just weren't ready to listen." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of the ancient law book between them. Finally, Emma asked the question that had been gnawing at her since Ethan's revelation. "Dad, do you believe in true mates? Like, Actual fated bonds? James's expression softened. I believe that some connections are stronger than others. Your mother and I, we weren't fated mates in the mythological sense, but we chose each other and built something real. That's its own kind of magic. But that's not what I'm asking. He sighed. I know. You want to know if what you felt with Ethan tonight could be real. And honestly, sweetheart, I don't know. The old stories talk about bonds that transcend choice, that hit you like lightning and change everything. But I've never experienced it myself. What if I have? The words came out barely above a whisper. What if the moment Ethan looked at me, everything in me recognized him? What if my wolf has been waiting for 5 years because she knew he existed? Her father reached over and squeezed her hand. Then that's worth exploring. But carefully, with your eyes open. Because even if the bond is real, that doesn't mean the relationship will be easy. Fated mates still have to choose each other every day. Emma nodded, letting his words sink in. The bond might be real. The attraction might be genuine. But she still had to navigate a challenge she never asked for. A pack that had spent 5 years watching her fail. And her own wounded heart that had learned to expect disappointment. I should get home, she said, standing up. Mom's probably having a breakdown. James stood too, pulling her into a hug. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. You've handled these 5 years with more grace than most people could manage. And whatever you decide after tomorrow's challenge, I'll support you. Even if I refuse both of them? Especially if you refuse both of them. Emma hugged him tighter, drawing strength from his steady presence. Then she grabbed her phone and they left the archives together, walking back toward the residential area in silence. Her phone had 17 new messages. Most were from pack members she barely knew, suddenly interested in her life now that it was dramatic. She ignored all of them except one from Riley. Come to my apartment when you're ready. I have ice cream and I won't ask questions. Okay, I'll ask some questions, but I'll be nice about it. Emma smiled despite everything. Her sister's apartment was actually closer than their parents' house, and the idea of ice cream and unconditional support sounded perfect. When she arrived 20 minutes later, Riley threw open the door before Emma could even knock. Her sister was 2 years younger, a beta with their mother's blonde hair and their father's calm temperament. She also had a gift for knowing exactly when Emma needed her. Okay, so I have mint chocolate chip and cookie dough, Riley announced, pulling Emma inside. And I already texted Mom that you're staying here tonight because I could tell she was about to launch into full interrogation mode. You're the best sister in the entire pack. Obviously. Riley handed her a pint of mint chocolate chip and a spoon. Now sit down and tell me everything because the rumors flying around are absolutely insane. Someone said Tyler challenged Ethan to a death match. Someone else said you and Ethan have been secretly mated for 3 years. And Jason Reeves swears he saw you and Ethan kissing behind the ceremonial hall. None of that is true, Emma said, sinking onto Riley's couch. Well, except the challenge part. But it's not a death match. So what actually happened? Emma took a deep breath and told her sister everything. About Ethan's return, the electric connection she'd felt, his confession about leaving 3 years ago, about Tyler's cold opportunism, and the challenge that was now scheduled for tomorrow night. Riley listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from curious to concerned to angry and back again. When Emma finished, her sister set down her ice cream with a decisive thunk. Okay, here's what we know, Riley said. 1. Ethan Blackwood has apparently been pining for you since you were 18, which is either incredibly romantic or slightly stalkerish depending on how you look at it. 2. Tyler Morrison is a calculating asshole who only wants you now because someone else does. And 3. You've spent 5 years believing you were unmatchable when actually you might be the most sought-after Omega in the pack right now. I'm not sought after. This is just 2 alphas having a dominance contest. Is it, though? Riley leaned forward. Because from what you described, Ethan sounds pretty genuine. And you felt something real with him, didn't you? Emma couldn't deny it. Yes, but I don't know if it was just alpha energy or something more. And I don't know if it even matters because now I'm stuck being the prize in a challenge I never wanted. So refuse them both after it's over. Dad texted me. He said you have that right. And have the entire pack talk about how the unmatchable Omega rejected 2 powerful alphas? That'll go over great. Riley grabbed her hand. Emma, stop. Stop caring what the pack thinks. They've spent 5 years judging you and you've internalized all of it. But maybe the problem was never you. Maybe the problem was that you were waiting for something real and everyone else was just going through the motions. The words hit Emma harder than she expected and she felt tears prick her eyes. What if I'm not brave enough to find out? Then I'll be brave for you, Riley said fiercely. And so will Dad. And probably Ethan too from the sound of it. You don't have to do this alone anymore. Emma let herself cry then, releasing 5 years of accumulated hurt and confusion. Riley held her, offering comfort without judgment, and for the first time since walking into that ceremonial hall, Emma felt like maybe she could survive whatever came next. What comes next is even stronger. And to not miss the ending, tap the subscribe button now. It's free and you'll be with me in every new story. Emma barely slept that night. She lay in Riley's guest bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying every moment with Ethan on an endless loop. The way his voice had dropped when he said her name, the electricity that had sparked between them when he touched her wrist, the raw honesty in his eyes when he'd admitted he'd been running from this connection for 3 years. Her wolf paced restlessly inside her, agitated and anxious. The creature wanted out, wanted to run to wherever Ethan was being kept, wanted to claim what her instincts screamed belonged to them. But Emma had learned long ago to keep her wolf tightly leashed. 5 years of rejection had taught both woman and beast to protect themselves. By the time pale morning light filtered through Riley's curtains, Emma had made a decision. She needed to see Ethan before the challenge, needed to look him in the eye without the pressure of the pack watching and ask him directly, was this real? Or was she just another piece in a game she didn't understand? She borrowed clothes from Riley, dark jeans and a soft gray sweater that made her feel less exposed than the ceremony dress had. Her sister was still asleep when Emma slipped out at 6:30, leaving a note on the kitchen counter. Gone for a walk. Back soon. Thank you for everything. The pack territory was quiet at this hour. Most wolves were still sleeping off the excitement of the previous night. Emma made her way toward the northern edge of the grounds, where the alpha preparation houses stood. These were small cabins used when alphas needed isolation before important pack events, challenges, territorial negotiations, vision quests. She knew which one Ethan would be in. The Blackwood family cabin, the same one his father had used during his tenure as Alpha Prime. It stood slightly apart from the others, surrounded by old-growth pine trees that gave it privacy. Emma's heart hammered as she approached. What if he refused to see her? What if the things he'd said last night had been exaggerated by emotion and pack politics? What if... The cabin door opened before she could knock, and Ethan stood there barefoot and shirtless, looking like he hadn't slept either. His dark hair was disheveled, his eyes shadowed but intensely alert. For a moment, they just stared at each other. I could smell you coming, he said quietly. Pine and vanilla. I'd recognize your scent anywhere. Emma's breath caught. The intimacy of his words, the way he said them like a confession, made her wolf surge forward with desperate hope. I need to talk to you, she managed. Before tonight, before everything becomes a spectacle. Ethan stepped back, gesturing her inside. I was hoping you'd come. The cabin was sparse but comfortable. A single room with a bed, a small kitchenette, and a fireplace where embers still glowed from a fire that must have burned through the night. Emma noticed a stack of papers on the table, pack law documents, similar to what she'd been reading in the archives. You're studying the challenge rules, she observed. I'm studying the loopholes, Ethan corrected, moving to put on a shirt that had been draped over a chair. Emma found herself oddly disappointed by the gesture, trying to find a way to end this without anyone getting hurt. Tyler won't back down. No, he won't. Ethan's jaw tightened. He sees this as an opportunity to humiliate me and elevate himself. If he wins, he gets to parade around as the alpha who defeated David Blackwood's son. If he loses, he'll spin it as me using dirty tactics or pack connections. Emma sat down at the table, her fingers tracing the edge of one of the documents. My father told me about your history with the pack, about your father and the reforms you tried to make. Did he tell you that I failed at all of them? Ethan's voice was bitter as he leaned against the kitchenette counter. Every single proposal shot down. Every attempt to modernize our laws blocked by elders who think it's still 1850. He said you left because you felt betrayed. I left because I was angry, Ethan admitted. Angry at the system, angry at myself for not being strong enough to change it, and angry because, he paused, his dark eyes finding hers, because I'd seen you at that first ceremony and I knew. I knew what you were to me and I couldn't do anything about it. Emma's heart raced. What do you mean you knew? Ethan crossed the room, sitting down across from her at the table. Up close, she could see the fine lines around his eyes, evidence of the 3 years he'd spent traveling. There was a scar on his left temple that hadn't been there before, a thin white line that spoke of battles she knew nothing about. True mates aren't common, he said slowly, carefully. Most wolves go their entire lives without experiencing that kind of bond. But when it happens, there's no mistaking it. The moment I saw you, really saw you, Not just as another pack member, but as you. Everything in me recognized you. Emma's hands trembled. She clasped them together in her lap, trying to maintain composure. I was 18. You were 24. Why didn't you say anything? Because you were 18, Ethan said gently. Because the bond was new and overwhelming, and I didn't trust myself not to overwhelm you with it. Because I was already questioning every tradition our pack held sacred, and I didn't want to drag you into that conflict. He leaned forward, his voice dropping. And because I was terrified. Of what? Of this. Of feeling something so powerful that it could destroy me if you didn't feel it back. Emma stared at him, seeing vulnerability in an alpha who'd always seemed untouchable. So you ran away. I ran away, he confirmed. I told myself it was about the pack reforms, about needing perspective, but really, I was running from you, from the intensity of wanting someone I couldn't have. You could have had me, Emma whispered, and the admission cost her something. I've spent 5 years being rejected at every ceremony. If you'd just said something, you would have accepted me out of desperation, not genuine feeling, Ethan interrupted, and I would have known it. Every day, I would have wondered if you were with me because you wanted to be or because I was the only alpha who'd shown interest. The truth of his words stung, but Emma couldn't deny them. Would she have questioned his motives if he'd approached her at that first ceremony? Probably not. Would she have accepted him just to avoid the humiliation of being unclaimed? Almost certainly. So, what changed? She asked. Why come back now? Ethan ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration she was beginning to recognize. I spent 3 years traveling to different packs, saw dozens of different approaches to mating and pack structure. Some were better than ours, some were worse. But everywhere I went, I felt incomplete, like part of me was missing. He met her eyes. And then about 6 months ago, I helped a pack in Montana deal with a rogue alpha problem. Their alpha prime was an older wolf, very wise. He took one look at me and said, "You're running from a mate bond." Emma's breath caught. I tried to deny it, Ethan continued, but he just laughed and said that running never works, that the bond only gets stronger with time, not weaker. He asked me how long I thought I could keep running before it broke me completely. What did you say? I said I didn't know, and he told me that not knowing was the problem, that I was letting fear make my decisions instead of courage. Ethan's gaze was steady, unwavering. So I came back. I planned to find you, to talk to you like we're talking now, to see if there was any chance you might feel even a fraction of what I feel. And then Tyler complicated everything, Emma said. Tyler is a symptom of a bigger problem, Ethan said, his voice hardening. The pack structure that allows alphas to treat omegas like acquisitions. The laws that turn something sacred into a dominance display. This challenge shouldn't be happening, Emma. You shouldn't have to sit there and watch two wolves fight over you like your property. But it is happening. And according to pack law, I have to be there. According to pack law, you have to witness the challenge and hear the victor's courtship claim, Ethan corrected, tapping one of the documents on the table. But there's no law that says you have to accept that claim. And there's no law that says you can't speak during the challenge itself. Emma frowned. What do you mean? The challenge tradition evolved from disputes over territory and resources, Ethan explained, leaning forward with growing intensity. It was never meant to involve a third party's consent, but pack law also states that any member has the right to address the Alpha Prime during official proceedings if they have information relevant to the matter at hand. You want me to interrupt the challenge? I want you to take control of your own narrative, Ethan said fiercely. I want you to stand up in front of the entire pack and tell them that you're not a prize to be won, that your choice matters more than any alpha's claim. The idea was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. Emma had spent 5 years trying to be invisible, trying not to draw attention to her failures. Now Ethan was asking her to do the exact opposite, to make herself the center of attention and demand respect. They'll think I'm being difficult, she said quietly. Ungrateful. The unmatchable Omega who's too proud to accept what she's being offered. Let them think whatever they want, Ethan said. You've spent 5 years letting their opinions define you. Maybe it's time to define yourself. Emma looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not just the alpha who'd walked away 3 years ago, but the man who'd come back, who'd spent 3 years trying to run from a bond that wouldn't let him go, who was now sitting across from her asking her to be brave. What if I'm not strong enough? She asked. Ethan reached across the table, his hand hovering just above hers, not touching but close enough that she could feel the warmth of his skin. You've survived 5 years of rejection from a pack that should have valued you. You've maintained your dignity and your kindness despite being treated like you're not enough. Emma, You're stronger than you know." The sincerity in his voice made her eyes burn with unshed tears. Slowly, carefully, she turned her hand over and let his fingers slide against hers. The contact was electric, just like the night before, but this time she didn't pull away. Her wolf practically sang with joy at the simple touch. "I felt it too," she admitted quietly. "Last night, when you looked at me, when you touched my wrist. Everything in me recognized you, and it terrified me because I've learned not to trust that feeling." "I know," Ethan said, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. "And I'm not asking you to trust it completely. Not yet. I'm just asking you to give it a chance. Give us a chance without Tyler's games or the pack's expectations clouding everything. But the challenge will happen tonight," Ethan finished. "And I'll fight because I have to, because Tyler won't back down, and I won't let him claim courtship rights over you through intimidation. But Emma, no matter what happens in that arena, I need you to know something." She waited, her heart pounding. "You don't owe me anything," he said firmly. "If you decide you want nothing to do with this bond, nothing to do with me, I'll respect that. I came back because I needed to try, needed to see if there was a chance. But I won't trap you with pack law or alpha dominance or anything else. Your choice is your own." Emma felt something inside her chest crack open, a protective wall she'd built over 5 years of disappointment, because here was an alpha offering her exactly what she'd always wanted: genuine choice. Not pressure, not manipulation, just honest respect for her autonomy. "What if I choose you?" she whispered. "What if I want to explore this bond?" Ethan's expression transformed, hope blazing across his features so bright it almost hurt to look at. "Then after tonight's challenge, we'll do this the right way. No ceremony, no pack politics, just you and me taking time to know each other. Real conversations, real connection, building something that's ours, not theirs." A knock on the cabin door shattered the moment. Both Emma and Ethan turned as a gruff voice called out, "Blackwood, you've got a visitor. Council Elder wants a word before tonight." Ethan grimaced. "That'll be Marcus Steele. He's probably here to lecture me about pack tradition and proper alpha behavior." Emma started to pull her hand back, but Ethan held on for just a moment longer. "Will you think about what I said? About speaking during the challenge?" "I'll think about it," she promised. "That's all I ask." He released her hand and stood, moving toward the door. Before opening it, he glanced back. "Emma, thank you for coming, for giving me a chance to explain." She nodded, not trusting her voice. As Ethan opened the door to reveal not Marcus Steele but Tyler Morrison, Emma's blood ran cold. Tyler's smile was sharp and predatory as his gaze moved from Ethan to Emma. How convenient. The prize and her champion already strategizing. "Should I be worried?" "You should leave," Ethan said, his voice dropping to a growl. "We're not supposed to have contact before the challenge." "I'm not here for you." Tyler's eyes locked on Emma. "I'm here to speak with the Omega whose future I'm fighting for tonight. Unless you're planning to deny me that right?" Emma stood, keeping her expression neutral despite the way her wolf snarled at Tyler's presence. "What do you want, Tyler?" "Just to remind you of something," Tyler said smoothly, stepping partially into the cabin despite Ethan's warning posture. "Ethan talks a good game about choice and autonomy, but ask yourself, where was that respect when you were 18 and going through your first ceremony? Where was it during your second, third, fourth, fifth rejection?" The words were designed to wound, and they hit their mark. Emma felt doubt creep in, cold and insidious. "He was becoming the man worthy of you," Emma found herself saying, surprising herself with the defense. "Something you've never bothered to do." Tyler's expression darkened. "Careful, little Omega. You might want to hedge your bets. After all, Ethan's been gone 3 years. A lot can change in that time. Are you certain he's still the fighter he once was? If you're still with me and want to see how this ends, tell me where you're watching from. Your support means everything." The tension in the cabin was suffocating. Ethan moved between Tyler and Emma, his posture radiating controlled aggression. Emma could see the muscle in his jaw ticking, the way his hands had curled into fists at his sides. "Get out," Ethan said, his voice deadly calm. "Before I forget that we're supposed to save this for the arena." Tyler laughed, but there was no humor in it. Still so protective, it's almost endearing. His gaze shifted back to Emma, calculating and cold. "I'll see you tonight, Emma. Try not to look too devastated when I win. It's bad optics for the pack." He left before either of them could respond, his footsteps crunching away on the gravel path outside. Emma released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "He's trying to get in your head," Ethan said, turning to her. "Make you doubt yourself, doubt me. That's his strategy. Psychological warfare before the physical fight." "Is he right?" Emma asked quietly. Have you changed in 3 years? Are you still as strong as you were? Ethan's expression softened. I'm stronger, not just physically, but in every way that matters. I've fought rogues in Montana, helped defend territory in Alaska, trained with some of the best fighters in the Pacific Northwest. But more than that, I know what I'm fighting for now. That makes all the difference. Emma wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this wasn't going to end with her watching him get hurt because of her, but Tyler's words had planted seeds of doubt that she couldn't quite shake. I should go, she said. You need to prepare, and I need to, I don't know, figure out what I'm going to say if I actually speak during the challenge. Emma, Ethan caught her hand as she moved toward the door. Whatever happens tonight, remember that you deserve better than what this pack has given you, better than 5 years of rejection, better than being fought over like territory. You deserve to be chosen freely, not claimed by force. She squeezed his hand once, then slipped out into the morning air. The sun was higher now, warming the September chill. As Emma walked back toward Riley's apartment, her mind raced with possibilities and fears. Would she really have the courage to speak up during the challenge? To stand in front of the entire pack and demand respect? The idea made her stomach churn with anxiety. But beneath that fear was something else. Something that felt almost like excitement. Maybe Ethan was right. Maybe it was time to stop being invisible. Riley was awake when Emma returned, making breakfast with the kind of focused intensity that meant she was worried. She looked up as Emma entered, relief flooding her features. Thank God. I was about to send out a search party. Where were you? Talking to Ethan. Emma sank onto a kitchen stool, suddenly exhausted despite the early hour. Riley flipped a pancake with more force than necessary. And, what did Mr. I've been pining for 3 years have to say? Emma told her everything. About the mate bond, about Ethan's reasons for leaving, about his plan for her to speak during the challenge. Riley listened without interrupting, though her expressions ranged from sympathetic to angry to fiercely proud. Okay, so let me get this straight, Riley said when Emma finished. You have an actual genuine mate bond with Ethan Blackwood. He's been in love with you since you were 18 but left because he wanted you to choose him freely, not out of desperation. And now he wants you to tell the entire pack to shove their outdated laws where the sun doesn't shine? Despite everything, Emma laughed. That's a very Riley way of putting it, but essentially, yes. Emma. Riley set down the spatula and came around the counter, gripping her sister's shoulders. You have to do it. You have to speak up tonight. What if I freeze? What if I can't find the words? Then you find them now, Riley said firmly. We've got all day. We're going to figure out exactly what you want to say, and we're going to practice until you can say it in your sleep. And that's exactly what they did. For the next several hours, Riley and Emma worked on crafting a speech. Not something formal or rehearsed, but genuine words that expressed Emma's truth. They wrote and rewrote, practiced and refined, until Emma could say the words without her voice shaking. By early afternoon, Riley declared her ready. You sound strong. You sound like someone who knows her worth. The pack is going to lose their minds, but in the best way possible. Emma wished she felt as confident as her sister sounded. But as the sun began its descent toward evening, anxiety crept back in with a vengeance. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. The challenge begins at sundown. Your father and I will save you a seat. Please dress appropriately. The reminder about clothing made Emma realize she had nothing suitable to wear. She couldn't show up in borrowed jeans and a sweater, but she also refused to wear anything that made her look like a prize on display. I have an idea, Riley said, disappearing into her bedroom. She emerged with a garment bag. I bought this for myself last month but haven't worn it yet. It's perfect for you. Inside was a dress, simple but elegant, made of deep emerald green fabric that would bring out Emma's eyes. It had long sleeves and a modest neckline, sophisticated without being showy. Emma held it up, feeling the quality of the material. Riley, this is too expensive. It's yours, Riley interrupted. Consider it your armor for tonight. You're going into battle in your own way, and you deserve to look like the warrior you are. Emma hugged her sister tightly, grateful beyond words. She showered and dressed carefully, leaving her dark hair down in loose waves. Minimal makeup. She wanted to look like herself, not like she was trying to impress anyone. When she looked in the mirror, Emma barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked strong, composed, like someone who could stand in front of a pack and demand to be heard. Riley drove them to the arena as the sun touched the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. The arena was an open-air amphitheater, built into a natural depression in the land, with stone seating arranged in a circle around a central fighting space. It had been there for over a century, hosting challenges and ceremonial gatherings. Tonight, it was packed. Emma's stomach dropped as they approached. It seemed like every member of the Silver Moon Pack had turned out for the spectacle. 300 wolves, all gathered to watch two alphas fight over her. The noise was overwhelming. Conversations, laughter, the excited energy of a crowd anticipating violence. "I can't do this," Emma whispered. Riley grabbed her hand. "Yes, you can. Just remember what we practiced. Remember who you are." They made their way to the seats her parents had saved, near the front but slightly to the side. Her mother looked her over with critical eyes, clearly wanting to comment on something but holding back. Her father smiled encouragingly and squeezed her shoulder. "You look beautiful, sweetheart, and strong." "Thanks, Dad." The Alpha Prime, Marcus Steele, entered the arena floor. He was a large man in his 50s with silver-streaked brown hair and the bearing of someone used to command. He raised his hands and the crowd gradually quieted. "Members of the Silver Moon Pack," Marcus's voice carried across the arena without need for amplification. "We gather tonight to witness a formal challenge, invoked under the ancient laws that have governed our kind for generations. Two alphas have declared interest in courting the same Omega. As they could not reach peaceful resolution, they have chosen to settle the matter through sanctioned combat." Emma's heart hammered in her chest. This was really happening. "The challenge will continue until one alpha submits or is rendered unable to continue," Marcus continued. "The victor will earn the right to court Emma Hartley for a period of 3 months during which no other alpha may interfere with that courtship." He gestured to one side of the arena. "Tyler Morrison, step forward." Tyler emerged from one of the preparation tunnels, already shirtless and wearing only loose pants suitable for shifting. He looked confident, powerful, playing to the crowd with a wave that earned cheers from his supporters. Emma noticed his family in the front row, his father nodding approvingly. "Ethan Blackwood, step forward." The noise that greeted Ethan was different, more subdued but somehow more intense. There were gasps, whispers. He'd been gone 3 years, and his return was still shocking to many. Like Tyler, he wore only pants, his torso bare and revealing the scars he'd collected during his travels. But what struck Emma was his focus. He wasn't looking at the crowd or at Tyler. He was looking directly at her. Their eyes met across the arena, and Emma felt the bond throb between them like a living thing. Her wolf surged forward, desperate to go to him, to stop this before it started. But she held her ground, keeping her expression neutral even as everything in her screamed. "Before we begin," Marcus said, "I must ask if either alpha wishes to withdraw their claim. This is your last opportunity to avoid combat." "I don't withdraw," Tyler said immediately, his voice carrying clearly. "I claim my right to court Emma Hartley." All eyes turned to Ethan. For a long moment he was silent and Emma's breath caught. Would he withdraw? Would he walk away to avoid the fight? "I don't withdraw," Ethan said finally, his gaze still locked on Emma. "But I challenge the premise of this entire proceeding." A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. Marcus frowned. "Explain yourself, Blackwood." "This challenge treats Emma Hartley as though she's property to be claimed by the strongest alpha," Ethan said, his voice ringing with conviction. "It ignores her autonomy, her choice, her voice. I'll fight if I must, but I ask the Alpha Prime to consider, is this really the example we want to set for our pack? That Omegas have no say in their own futures?" The crowd erupted in confused murmurs. Marcus held up his hand for silence, clearly caught off guard by Ethan's challenge to tradition. "The law is clear," Marcus began. "The law is outdated," Ethan interrupted, and several pack members gasped at the audacity. "We're not living in 1847 anymore. We claim to be civilized, to have evolved, but we're still using barbaric traditions that treat half our population as lesser." Tyler laughed coldly. "Is this your strategy, Blackwood? Stall and philosophize because you're afraid to fight?" "I'm not afraid to fight you, Morrison," Ethan shot back. "I'm afraid of perpetuating a system that's fundamentally broken." "Enough," Marcus commanded. "Blackwood, your concerns are noted, but they don't change the challenge that's been issued and accepted. If you wish to propose reforms, you may do so at the next council meeting. Tonight we follow established protocol." Emma felt her moment approaching like a wave. This was it. If she was going to speak, it had to be now. Her hands trembled as she stood, her legs feeling like they might give out at any moment. "Alpha Prime," she called out, her voice shakier than she wanted. "I invoke my right to address the proceedings." Every head in the arena swiveled toward her, 300 pairs of eyes. The weight of their attention was crushing, and for a second, Emma couldn't breathe. Then she felt Riley's hand on her back, supportive and steadying. She saw her father nod encouragingly, and she saw Ethan, pride and hope blazing in his expression. She could do this. She had to. Emma Hartley, Marcus said slowly. You wish to speak? I do. Emma stepped down from her seat, moving toward the arena floor on shaking legs. I have information relevant to this proceeding. Marcus looked uncertain. This wasn't standard protocol and he clearly didn't know how to handle it. But pack law was on Emma's side. Any member could address official proceedings if they had relevant information. Very well, Marcus said finally. Speak. Emma reached the edge of the fighting space, standing between where Ethan and Tyler waited on opposite sides. She turned to face the crowd and her mind went blank. All the words she'd practiced with Riley evaporated, leaving only raw fear. Then she saw her sister mouth, "You've got this." Emma took a deep breath and found her voice. 5 years ago I attended my first mating ceremony, she began, her words tentative but growing stronger. I was 18, hopeful, and terrified. I wore my best dress, I did everything right, and I went home alone. She paused, letting the words settle. Several pack members shifted uncomfortably. This happened 4 more times. 5 ceremonies, 5 rejections. And every time I asked myself, what's wrong with me? Why am I not good enough? Why can't anyone see my worth? Her voice cracked slightly, but she pushed on. I blamed myself for years, thought I was broken somehow. But standing here tonight, watching 2 alphas prepare to fight over the right to court me, I finally understand the truth. Emma turned to look at Marcus directly. The system is broken, not me. A system that allows alphas to ignore me for 5 years and then suddenly fight over me because one of them decided I might be valuable. That system is fundamentally flawed. The arena was dead silent now. Even Tyler had lost his confident smirk. I am not property, Emma said, her voice ringing clear and strong. I am not a prize to be won through combat. I am a person who deserves to choose her own path, her own partner, her own future, and I refuse to let outdated laws make that choice for me. She turned to face both alphas. Tyler Morrison, you ignored me for 5 years. You chose someone else and built a life with her. You only want me now because Ethan does. That's not interest. That's ego. Tyler's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Emma looked at Ethan. And you, Ethan Blackwood, you felt our bond 3 years ago and ran away instead of trusting me with the truth. You made choices for me without letting me have a voice. She saw pain flash across Ethan's face, but he nodded slowly, accepting the truth of her words. So here's what I'm saying, Emma announced, turning back to the crowd. Fight if you must. Fulfill the letter of the law. But understand this. When it's over, I will make my own choice. Not because pack law tells me to, not because the victor claims his